solution that is native to Salesforce and on platform is something a lot of people are excited about, and we're happy to showcase some of the stuff, cool stuff we built, and we'll jump right into it. So today, there we go, a little bit of a delay. Today, myself, I'm in Thane Tag and Greg Fiorendo. We're going to walk through the webinar, but first I'll introduce the team here. My name is Tom Noss, Chief Strategy Officer here at Neocol. Been the Salesforce ecosystem for over 20 years. So showing my age a little bit, but I did start off more or less on the client side. So was an entrepreneur that utilized Salesforce as a platform, really tried to drive efficiencies with my organizations, which ultimately led to me getting into the partner ecosystem. So I do have that unique point of view from client side to partner side, which is somewhat unique. So exciting to see Salesforce come with this new solution on platform, and excited to talk to the greater group here about the benefits that we see. We also have Thane Tag. He's our Chief Technology Officer. He also came from client side to the partner side. So he was in charge of revenue operations for a SaaS company, went into more or less transition into the SaaS space from a delivery point of view and project implementation, and has been doing billing projects and revenue projects here for the last 10 years or so. And we have Greg Fiorendo. He's almost been in the Salesforce ecosystem as long as I, so showing both of our ages here, but he's been at Salesforce for 19 years or so. I think he's seen a contract or two throughout his days contracting with clients from the Salesforce perspective. So not only does he bring a unique point of view from CLM in general, but also has that point of view of how Salesforce utilizes contracting, some of the challenges they have, and his excitement of how this solution could help them long term as well. Today's agenda, we're going to talk really quickly with our Neocol commercial, just talk about who we are, what we do. We're going to keep the majority of the time for Greg's point of view and then walking through our demo. I think being able for us to talk about it is one thing, but actually see it in action and being able to answer questions and you guys visualize what the tool can do and how it could optimize and drive efficiencies within an organization is something that we're really excited about. Want to keep it very conversational, fluid. We'll jump in while Thane is doing that demo and provide some input as well. Keep the questions open and flowing through the chat. If you have anything, if we could have enough time at the end, we'll address them. If not, we will address them individually afterwards. And then at the end, we'll talk about what's coming next. We've been doing a lot of webinars, really progressional. As we add new functionality into our demo environment, it's something that we want to keep showing off and showing how we're taking the Salesforce platform, specifically Revenue Cloud, and building add-ons that are associated and enhance the user experience and be able to show that off for things that we do have live. Our IP and accelerators is something that we hang our hat on, something that makes our projects, our timelines quicker and a little bit budget friendly. So the more that we could develop and show off and really address best practices, use cases, is something that we hang our hat on. First and foremost, I'll talk about Neocol, a little bit about ourselves, our history, and in who we are as an organization. So Neocol, our mantra is helping subscription companies scale and grow. And what it has done has made us the largest pure play Salesforce partner dedicated really to the subscription space. When I say subscription, I really mean companies that have a reoccurring revenue model, any subscription model, anytime somebody is looking to bill over and over again from a reoccurring perspective, usage, things of that nature, is something we specialize in. Our domain expertise within our organization is something that we're really proud of. Our people bring a very consultative point of view to the table, oftentimes not only coming from the Salesforce ecosystem, but from real clients that have lived and breathed this. If you look at some of our key players from our center of excellence within our organization, we have people that specialize in revenue recognition, RevOps, integration into top ERPs and things of that nature that really resonate with our reoccurring revenue clients. Our main pillars that we really try to focus on as an organization is how do we drive customer success? And customer success for us is really defined as, how do we help our companies be able to maintain current relationships, but help them grow them proactively. So really trying to drive growth as one main pillar, but also proactively preventing churn. We understand the cost per acquisition of a new client is one of the most expensive things out there for our companies. Investing in a client to get them on board is one thing, but being able to manage that relationship and being able to land and expand and also keep that customer happy and prevent churn are things that we really take a proactive approach and really try to drive that customer success. And how do we do it? If you look at some of these bullets on the right, we really drive to things like unlocking efficient self-service, proactively prevent churn. Here the last year or so, we've really been digging into our product-led growth strategies. But all these different bullet points really drive. It wasn't something that Neocol came to the table and said, "Hey, this is what we think SaaS companies or recurring revenue companies are looking to do." We actually went out and talked to our clients, over 100 different SaaS and recurring revenue clients, like, what is important to you and how could we help? And these are some of the things that really were drivers within organizations, which led to some of the stuff on the left. We're a Summit consulting partner, top Inc. 5000 company. But if you look at some of the awards and things that we've done, I think in the last 12 months, one of the most proud things that Neocol has been able to do is that we were able to procure investment from Salesforce Ventures. It's been a long journey here at Neocol, and to be able to prove our success within our implementations to our clients and have Salesforce behind us and believe in us is something that we're really proud of. So I want to jump in next. It's enough about Neocol, and I said 2 minutes, but sometimes I get a little wordy. I want to jump into driving the conversation over to Greg Fiorendo, and more or less really have him talk about what the point of view is from Salesforce, and why exactly did they make the entry in the CLM space. CLM's been around for a long time, but what was the lever and what was the thought process behind actually jumping in and getting into the space where they hadn't really played in the past? They've been a platform for other CLM tools to connect to, but now it's the jumping into the deep end and playing alongside some of the other CLM partners. So, Greg, we really understand, what do customers need to know about Salesforce's entry into the CLM space, and why do you think it's important?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Tom. I really appreciate everything you're doing at Neocol to really drive this agenda forward. Well, first and foremost, I've seen a lot of software evaluations. I've been in the quote to cash space now for 9+ years. And what I often see is that evaluation of contract lifecycle management typically is delegated to the legal department. And when you look at CLM platforms, they look really, really powerful, and they can be very successful. But the assumption is that it's almost like it's the only platform that you have. And the way we look at it is contracting is such a critical process to the selling motion, right? It affects sales cycles, it affects renewal cycles and renewal terms. And so fundamentally, contracting, even though it's often designated or delegated to legal, has a tremendous impact on everybody that's involved in the contracting process: sales, customer success, consulting, finance, operations. So it's really a multi-function process and it's not purely a legal process, right? So we think this idea of a standalone CLM platform ultimately is going to impact revenue efficiency and your ability to onboard customers, your ability to renew customers efficiently. The second one is, if you've implemented a CLM, you sort of know this, especially if it's a sell side process where the legal process is touching a sales process. There's actually a lot of technical complexity that goes along with implementing a standalone contract management platform. First of all, contracting in itself is a customer-facing process, and therefore your CLM platform needs to know about customer and account records and partner records and contacts, right? So there's an integration overhead that goes with that oftentimes is diminished during the evaluation cycle or minimized during the evaluation cycle. The other thing is, I don't know of that many IT organizations that want to build up a skill set, an administrative skill set and a technical skill set and a functional skill set just for the purpose of managing contracts. So there's a lot of cost that goes with managing, maintaining, and upgrading contract management platforms. And so we think there's a huge benefit to leveraging the skill sets that our customers have with the Salesforce platform and just extending it into this new domain of contract management. And then the last one, I think, if you were only going to remember one thing of these 3 bullets, it's that, look, contracting is a customer impacting process. It is oftentimes the most important element of the customer relationship because it documents customers' obligations to you and your obligations to customers. So we think rather than having a separate stovepipe of contracting analytics, we think it makes a lot of sense for our customers to really make contracts part of the customer 360 on the Salesforce platform. And that makes for really interesting artificial intelligence. So you've hit on preventing churn a few times, Tom, and you're not going to prevent churn by getting analytics or artificial intelligence out of contracting platform. You need that artificial intelligence to be looking at the contracting cycle, to be looking at open cases for, that indicate whether they're happy or whether they're unhappy with your product, or maybe you're even integrating in usage of your own product and making that part of the customer 360. So we really think that using AI, whether it's predictive or generative, needs to look at not just contract data, but contract data, opportunity data, lead data, usage data, data that's coming out of customer service. That's where you're really going to benefit. So we really think there's a strong story for having more data on the Salesforce platform because of how much we've invested in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's great, Greg. I mean, the whole thought process of CLM and the personas that it brings in, whether it's just not legal, right? Like you mentioned, it's not only coming in during the contracting phase of, or signing an MSA as part of the customer journey. It's new sales, it's renewals, it's all throughout the whole life cycle of a client within your organization, and having that seamlessly integrated on Salesforce and be able to not only leverage the reduction in change management to bring your current people utilizing the system onto this new functionality. It's definitely a seamless move. We're going to pivot.
And Tom,
go ahead.
The thing I'll just add, you just prompted some really interesting things. But when you think about the use cases, the legal use cases that are going to materially impact our customers' efficiency at acquiring new customers, you need salespeople to generate a really accurate first draft of a contract before you ever get into like the redlining that's associated with a contract, right? MSAs and things like that. But the other thing is, I've been in the software business for 30 years, almost 20 years with Salesforce. The other thing that I know is you want salespeople working in their system of record, the CRM system. I've never met a lawyer, either inside of Salesforce or in our customers, where the preference wasn't to work in Microsoft Word. They're not going to go use a CLM platform do their redlining there. They really want to do the work in Microsoft Word where you're tracking changes, you're redlining. Of course, you need all the tracking and the controls and the approvals, but I think it's really a matter of ensuring that all of the different parties are working in the system that they're most familiar with.
And I think another thing that comes to my mind is really trying to enable sales to be able to do some of this heavy lifting up front and not have to rely on too many people throughout the process. So the more you can, and Thane's going to do a real good job showing this off in the demo, the more you can enable the sales side or the front end of the process, whether it be sales, whether it be deal desk, and not have to, bug legal. Oftentimes when you're going through this process, some of the roadblocks or hiccups throughout the contracting process is when you actually get to the end stage or when legal's doing their reviews. And if you're able to bring some of that stuff up front and enable sales deal desk to have clause libraries, have reoccurring assets, things of that nature, it's going to drive efficiencies for organizations. And obviously in this economic time, anytime you could drive efficiencies and automate things that in the past have been more of a manual intervention, I think is something that we really got to double click on. I appreciate the input there, Greg. And as we go through the demo, that's going to be our next portion here, really talking about personas and our point of view of some specific use cases that we've identified, and being able to show those off. Feel free to jump in, Greg, and give your point of view of any additional thoughts you might have or things that come to mind throughout the demo. All right, Thane. One thing I want to, Thane and I talk very often about the different cool things that Salesforce is doing and in our position at Neocol and where we're trying to, be not only, 10 feet ahead of us, but, a year from now. And for the past 5 years or so, since Thane's been at the organization, one thing that he used to do in a past life was CLM project. So I think anyone who's ran a CLM project in a different platform and loves Salesforce has been waiting around for, when is Salesforce going to come to market with a CLM solution? And I know based on what he's built and building, Thane has been pretty jacked to really jump headfirst into this, and really excited about him showcasing some of this. So Thane, if you want to take it away, talk a little bit and set up the demo, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So we're really going to be focused on 3 main personas today. And, as Greg had mentioned that, the contracting process is a customer touch point. So making sure that all the people that are involved with that process are, have clear visibility into the actual sale itself, making sure that we're generating the right contracts at the right time to make sure that, the sale is actually an eligible closed won opportunity. And we're not disclosing too much information too early in the process. So we're going to start out the demonstration with the sales persona and having a net new opportunity. It's before we get to the quote. So we're going to start with a very straightforward non-disclosure agreement generation process. From there, sales is going to generate a quote. We'll show some dynamic terms and conditions from a published clause library that legal has pre-approved. We'll route that out as the first draft to the customer. And then sales is actually going to encounter a reason to request for red lines. The customer has requested for some changes to a term in the MSA. And then sales is very easily going to request for red lines and interact with Deal Desk. Deal Desk will then pursue the redlining and the negotiation directly with the customer while always having the ability to get in contact with legal for any sort of reviews. But in the demo today, we're going to be enabling Deal Desk to self-serve themselves based on pre-approved legal clauses and conditions that legal has already put into the tool belt of sales and Deal Desk to operate efficiently without necessarily needing to talk to Deal Desk or talk to sales or legal. So We will be doing a part 2 webinar where we're going to focus a little bit more on, clause library administration and more detailed redlining from a legal point of view. But, we're really going to be focusing on these 3 personas, sales, customer, and deal desk to start.
Oh,
So I will, go ahead and
Sorry.
share my screen here.
I'll stop sharing. Sorry.
So again, we're going to start out with the sales here. And what I have is I'm looking at a net new opportunity. I don't actually have a primary quote yet. We're set and we're targeting to close this in February. So in order for me to actually get into a needs analysis or a proposal price quote stage, we need to get an NDA on file. And what you can see here is we actually have a button for launching what is like a Salesforce contracts launcher. And here we can see that I can generate, from a contract template. I know that I need to generate an NDA. I could say, hey, I want to use one of our pre-approved legal templates, or if the counterparty had a third-party agreement, we could upload, an NDA from the customer directly and have that get for review. But today I'm going to use one of our standard templates, and immediately I'm prompted with some special terms. These are pre-approved variations in an NDA that, as a seller, I'm able to make those changes and modifications, which would then dynamically adjust the template itself based on these pre-approved legal terms. So I know that we do need a mutual NDA, and I know that we don't need it to have an expiration date. So again, this is fully customizable, to each contract type that you would be generating. And I'll show more of those special terms a little bit later when we get into order forms and MSAs. So immediately here, I'm going to go ahead and actually take a look and preview the document itself. So here I can see that, this is dynamically generated our mutual non-disclosure agreement based on my previous selections. I'm able to actually view and preview the document itself. So if I had any more dynamic terms and conditions, I could have those display there. Once I'm happy with the actual preview, I'm actually able to then see, okay, what do I want to do with this document? So I could request 4 red lines, and these are standard terms and conditions that I could make for a customization request throughout to deal desk. I could send it to the customer for review, or I could just say, hey, you know what, this is actually ready for signature. It's just a standard NDA. Let's get that out to the customer immediately. So when I click next here, that's going to go ahead and generate my contract automatically here. So if I do a refresh on the screen, now I'm going to be able to see we have an NDA, it's ready for signature. And if I click into the document itself, here I can see that it's checked in as version 1. It's ready for signature. And if I had selected my primary contact, I could actually hook in with any e-signature provider like a DocuSign, an Adobe Sign, Conga Sign. There's so many out there now that we wanted to keep this demo pretty vanilla because, we understand that a lot of different companies are using different signature providers, but just wanted to explain that this process will work with any electronic signature tool.
One thing I want to point out here, Thane, is that the NDA process is something that happens over and over and over again. And one of the common things that you see are customers wanting to change from a mutual to, one that incorporates both of us. So being able to right now, it hasn't gone to anybody. It's purely sales. They're able to generate that execution or that version of the contract with those terms without having to talk to legal, without having to go to deal desk, to not have to ping somebody on Slack and where's our non-disclosure agreement that fits these use cases. You're doing everything self-service. So from the get-go, you're really taking out some manual clutter within the process that makes things a little bit more seamless.
Yeah, good point, Tom. And really the next piece of the process here is now that we've got a fully executed non-disclosure agreement, as the seller, I'm ready to actually generate a quote for them. We're ready to disclose pricing. So I'll move it into our proposal price quote stage and I'll fire up a new quote here we'll set that to target for next month here. I'll set my primary contact. And now I'm going to go into the actual quote line editor itself, and we're going to configure some quote terms. So I'm going to add our enterprise agreement, our enterprise level product, and we'll say that we're going to go for 150 licenses. And you can see these couple fields on the quote here. So a couple things I want to draw attention to is that as a seller, I'm dynamically configuring the quote. I'm not necessarily drafting a contract. I'm going through and modifying fields on the quote that are going to drive dynamic terms and conditions that, to Tom and Greg's earlier point, will influence the way that the renewal is handled. So for example, we're going to do a standard CPI uplift as part of this. So when this contract comes up for renewal, we're going to uplift based on the consumer price index that's published for that month. Now, as the seller, I know that the customer has actually preemptively asked me for a discount. And I've told them that, if they go on an auto renewal, we're able to give a pre-approved 10% discount. So I'm going to configure that as part of the quote here. And when I'm happy with my quote selections, we can assume that this has gone into the approved state. So kind of insert approvals as needed here. But since all of these are standard, I'm just going to generate our standard contract package to send to the customer for review. So as the seller, I have this button called, generate PDF. And this is going to launch me into, a full view of all the templates that I have available to me. So I know that this customer doesn't have an MSA on file with us, and I know that they're going to want to see a copy of the order form. So I'm going to select order form and MSA. I'm going to use this data, and then we're able to control, what a seller or what a quoting user would have access to here. So, for example, if we only wanted people to have control over a PDF, we're able to change, what capabilities are eligible, for a user that is going to be generating documents. So something we see a lot common in the CLM space is, having the ability to dynamically draft PDF documents, but maybe we don't want to open up, a Microsoft Word version for everyone in the company to be able to generate. So in this scenario, I'm going to generate our PDF documents. And one thing I want to call out, which is really a big leap forward in the CLM space, is the concept of being able to actually generate multiple PDF documents at the same time. So I was able to queue up multiple different templates here, one for the order form, and then one for the master subscription agreement. So I could download these individually and send them to the customer. But what we're able to see here is that this is dynamically merging data right from the quote itself. So we can see our renewal uplift term at the CPI uplift. I can see some dynamic special terms that have automatically been included from the clause library for me. And what I can also do is I can actually merge these together. So a really common CLM requirement is to, actually have a way for us to generate this as one document package and send this out to the customer. So just zooming in a little bit here, I can see our 10% discount that's automatically applied. I'm able to see these dynamic terms and conditions merge in for the automatic renewal discount and the CPI adjustment special term. And then I'm also able to, see of our full standard MSA with the terms merged in directly from the clause library. I'm not able to actually modify this, but these are all managed by the legal department and published to me as the seller. So I'm able to, send out the standard contracts to the customers.
So basically, then with a couple clicks on the quote, you're able to control some dynamically influenced terms and conditions on the actual output document. That's
right. Yep. And I didn't really have to think about it. It was part of the quote configuration process. And I knew that it was automatically going to pull in, the right terms and conditions for me based on those special commercial terms that we configured as part of the quote.
What I
Perfect.
love about
And
it, you never left Salesforce, right? You see these integrated CLM platforms, you're very clearly leaving Salesforce to go to another platform that's separately administered. Users need to be trained on it, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really cool thing.
yeah, and so if we kind of fast forward here, because right now, what we've done so far is just generate, PDF documents, and we sent those out to the customer for review. So the next part of this process is, I sent that out to the customer, and the customer sent me an email or gave me a phone call back and said, hey, I took a look at the MSA. Our procurement department has said no way. They need to take a look and actually start a red line on the MSA. The order form looks great. Thank you for getting the 10% discount. So I'm going to mark the quote as accepted, because we've accepted the terms and conditions and the price. So we're agreed on the order form. And if I go back to my opportunity here, now that we've got an accepted primary quote, I'm gonna go into the negotiation and review stage where we're really gonna start the contracting process. And with that information that I just got from the phone call from the customer, I know that the order form is good to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and pre-prepare that. I'm gonna generate my order form. We don't need to do any of these custom terms, but just wanted to show that, if there were different legal conditions as part of the order form, we could modify here and actually generate that and show that on the document. This would be used potentially for, things like an early termination right, something that could potentially impact the revenue recognition process, right? So if this could basically mean that they had termination rights at 6 months, and our revenue accounting team and our billing team is going to need to know these things. So that's why it's so important to have the contracting process on the Salesforce platform, where potentially your revenue recognition and your billing operations are happening, because these terms and special conditions as part of the order form could have a high impact on your payment schedules as well as your revenue recognition procedures.
It's also visible to every other user within that, revenue lifecycle management. So say you get a renewal specialist working an account and you have an early term agreement or clause, they're able to see that on the contract record, have a contract 360 point of view or view, and be able to have that at their fingertips without having to dig into multiple systems, and be able to create workflow around things that are built from a data perspective.
Yep. So I'm gonna just keep moving along here. We know that this one is all good to go, and then I will just mark this as ready for signature. And now, I know that I'm gonna generate our MSA as well. So if I click create additional contract here, I know that we need to generate the MSA. We're gonna start with one of our templates, and again, you can see some special things here. Extended payment terms or flexible termination rights. Again, this is completely tailorable to, what type of special terms and things that you would want to publish to a sales team potentially, or what special terms and conditions you have in your clause library. So I'm going to set no to all here, and we're just going to start with our standard version. And here again, we can take a preview through all the standard terms and conditions here. And from a little bit different, now I know that the customer is requested to actually get some red lines on this. And, they told me that there was something about they needed a term adjusted for intellectual property. Customer said they can't accept IP clauses. And, this is a large quarter end deal. And we can customize this form, based on what type of information needs to be filled out in order to interact with Deal Desk or legal. We'll mark this as urgent, and I could, upload additional files, right? If there was an email from the customer or something like that, I could make sure that Deal Desk and the legal team has all the context, from the conversations I've had with the customer. So I'll go ahead and click next, and now that's automatically generated our contract. So if I come back in here as the seller, I'm able to see now that I have my order form is, fully ready for signature. I've got my primary contact marked, and we've got our, specific version set up. But then if I look at the MSA, I can see that this one's actually sitting in deal desk review. So I've got our NDA that's fully executed. The order form is ready to go, but I know that the customer needs both versions of the document in order to actually sign and close win the opportunity. So with that information, if I'm gonna switch over personas here to the deal desk user, kind of see what that looks like. So from a seller's point of view, I've got my primary quote, terms accepted. I've routed the request to deal desk, and it's a little bit out of my hands right now, right? I've done everything that I can, but I still want to maintain visibility to make sure that I'm forecasting my opportunity on the correct close date. So it's with deal desk, but I need to be able to see that process as it's unfolding. So if I switch over to the deal desk persona, I've actually got an open work item here for the CLM deal desk. So if I take a look at this and I actually navigate to the contract itself, here I can see that, the customer has requested a Microsoft Word version of the document. So here I've got version 1 already checked in. And again, I have some contract actions here. And, if I was working, I could see all my different tasks as they were coming in here. So I could see all the different contracts that have been requested. And if I click customer review, I could choose the primary contact, which I want to send this document to. So, from the sales team, they've told it was myself here. And then I can actually take a preview of the document as well. So here I can see that this is the contract, the document title, and the current version that we're actually working off of. And then as deal desk, I'm able to say, pull in dynamic templates and email templates that I can send to the customer for review. So I could add additional documentation. And then I'll go ahead and send that email out to the customer. So now that's automatically been sent over to the customer for review. And that will automatically advance the contract stage here. So we're actually tracking how long the contract is in each of these stages. And from seller's point of view, if I had switched back over, I'd be able to see that CLM status has advanced into customer review. So now as the seller, I know where this contract is at all times with my customer. So as I'm talking to, sales leadership, I'm able to say, look, here is the MSA is sitting with the customer for review. Maybe I could see that it's been sitting there for multiple days and I want to give the customer a call, kind of say, hey, is everything going okay? Now, if we fast forward a little bit and we actually take a look and see, here I sent this contract out today. Here I can see that this is the email that was actually sent to the customer. So I can see the actual document and all information that's happened here. And if we just kind of fast forward a little bit and say, that the customer returned, their version of the document. So I'm going to say as deal desk, I've got the new version, and we could publish that into like a contract portal, or this could actually happen inside of a customer community or a partner community. But I'm going to actually import their version of the contract, and I have this already pre-prepared with some red lines for simplicity in the demo. So I'll go ahead and say that this was the version that the customer had sent over, and I'll import that. And here you can see that automatically advances the version that we're working on to version 2. However, the active version is still version 1. And if I had, take a quick look here, in the contract viewer, I can see, okay, they made a red line here. There's a couple modifications that they had alerted me to. So I'll go ahead and check that in as our next working version. So we're working on version 2 now. And as deal desk, I'm actually going to check this out. And, I want to open this up just right in Office 365. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. in Office 365. And that's going to open up a new tab for me where I'm actually going to be able to look at and see the track changes. I'm going to use our contracts connector inside of Office 365. And I can see that the comment they left me is that the IP language is too strict. And you can see here that because we use the clause library, the contract is automatically tagged with different sections here. So I can see that this section is locked down because this was from the pre-approved legal terms or definitions. And I can actually go down and I can see that, you know, the intellectual property here, this is the clause that they were asking about as it was too strict. So as Deal Desk, I'm able to actually interact with, you know, published terms from the legal team. And I know that we actually have a pretty good fallback for intellectual property. So what I'm going to do is go and search the clause library here. And here I can see that here's our fallback. I'm going to go ahead and replace that with the pre-approved language from the clause library. So I'll show them that, hey, I struck out the original one and I used a little bit nicer fallback language. And I can actually go into the review here and I can, if I go click next here, I can resolve that comment. And then if I wanted to take a look at that, I can accept that. And then here I can see that they struck through indemnification. That's okay. You know, or I could route that for legal. But I'm going to actually go ahead and make and accept that change here. And when I'm happy with this new version of the document that I'm now ready to send back to the customer, I can check that in. And this is going to create version 3. And I think it's an important piece to call out that, you know, as a deal desk or a legal user, I was working in Microsoft Word, which I'm comfortable with for this redlining process, but it's so tightly tied to Salesforce. Like I'm one click away from Salesforce and I can see that I'm actually editing it over here in Office 365. And now this actually checked that version in. So I got to, you know, feel like I left Salesforce, even though I really didn't. So now if I, you know, do a refresh here, I'm actually able to see, here's version 3, you know, it's got my new version in here with all the appropriate terms and conditions. And then I can say, you know what, hey, we completed that step. And once I'm ready to actually send it back out to the customer, when I generate here, I can actually see that I'm going to be sending them, you know, version 3. And this is the new version that we're working through. And it's going to have my, you know, my new intellectual property term and condition that I just made a modification for. So,
Quick,
you know,
quick
important
question,
thing.
And I know you showed this off to me in the past. I know it's not available for this demo, but you did have a clause that had an option that you've logged in the back. What are the options from like an AI perspective? And I know that is a big time saver as well. Say somebody asks for changes in a section of a contract that we don't have a clause. How would you use like a generative AI to solve that problem?
Yeah, good question. So in the actual clause library that Salesforce Contracts has, they have pre-built in Einstein prompts, which essentially are an ability to use generative AI to draft legal language. So in the example, you know, if we didn't have a fallback for excess data storage, you know, I could prompt the clause builder to draft me a, you know, more lightly worded and less aggressive legal language clause. Mm-hmm. Or I could say, hey, you know, somebody has asked for some modifications to this. So that'll use the large learning language models, as well as it can look at all of your contracts on file and help predict a risk tolerance and actually draft a new first version of that. So you could route that for a legal review and actually use generative AI to get a first draft of a clause.
Awesome. I know it's not available today for this demo, but you've showed it off to me in the past, and I thought it would be cool for people to understand how that worked in the back end.
Yeah, and for
Yeah,
customers,
definitely.
and for customers on the call, just to know that the AI, the contracts GPT wizard or assistant that Thane just described is currently in limited release. We are accepting applications for customers who want to be part of that AI release. So contracts is generally available. The contracts GPT capability is currently in limited release.
So, this is kind of where we have a hub and spoke type workflow where, as Deal Desk, I could go round and round, right? I could send it to the customer for review. I could send it to legal. I could send it for an approval. I could send it back to sales. So, for sake of simplicity, we're going to just assume here that this one's all ready to go. So we're going to actually say that this one is ready for signature. And now that Deal Desk has completed that process, it's going to complete our CLM workflow. We've gotten to an agreed document with the customer, and just from a quick reporting standpoint, we can see that this workflow is completed and what's actually happened behind the scenes. And we're currently working on some reports and dashboards here, but this is constantly logging, how long was it with the customer? How long was it with Deal Desk? So we have all these data points to provide more detailed analytics into the contracting process and how that affects sales cycle times, et cetera.
And because that's logged, we can create workflow and alerts and things of that nature. Not only the reporting mechanism and maybe do a dashboard or integrate CRMA, but if something happens within that contracting process, it's actually getting logged in that log right there, and we can create workflow too, right? Perfect.
Yep, absolutely. So if I kind of jump back to the seller's point of view, and we're almost at the end of the demonstration here, but now as the seller, I'm able to see that, great, I've actually got, hey, we're on version 3 of the MSA. I've got version 1 of the order form. These are both ready for signature. So from this point, we could assemble a signature package, right? And again, this is kind of where, a e-signature tool would fit in. But these versions are, stored inside of Salesforce. Salesforce is doing all that file version management. So, we're always able to see kind of like the history of the versions here, and kind of what activities, have happened, across the board. So, from this point on, we would launch like a DocuSign or a Conga sign or a Adobe sign. And, that would then be our trigger point to actually close win the opportunity. And, we'd assemble that contract package. And then very similarly, now this is kind of where we'd start our order process, right? So we've got our new order, and really the contracting process has completed there. We've got our order products and billing frequencies and all the special terms and conditions from the contracting process. And now we hand this over to, an order fulfillment team and our finance team to actually start invoicing and billing. And very similarly, that same sort of document generation process, we are able to use that for actually generating invoices and document generation process to send to customers. So, more to come on that side of the house, but, really wanted to show that quote to contract to order, nail that piece down to getting a new customer onboarded. But, I think that this is really exciting stuff, because this sort of thing with like a contract launcher, today we focused on an NDA, an MSA, and an order form, but this could very easily be extended to partner agreements or partner NDAs. Even it could be used for customer onboarding processes. So, as part of the order fulfillment process, maybe I need to get bank information from a customer or things of that nature, or, have them sign user license agreements. Again, the concept of Salesforce contracts being on platform, it's really extensible to any sort of paper process that, is part of your quoting, your ordering, or even your invoicing or payment process. So really excited for the future of Salesforce contracts. And that takes us to the end of the demo. So Tom and Greg, I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, I think what the power that within the demo of you showing, everything being done in CPQ and billing and contracts, and as you're clicking or filling out fields and creating that process, it's all on platform. It could all be passed on progressionally to the order, could all be passed to the renewal, it could all be passed into one, subscription 360, contract 360, where everybody could see everything on one simple platform. And it makes not only the visibility, but the transition of information from the beginning of the process all the way to the end in the whole life cycle of a client. So it's the power there is pretty incredible.
What I love about what you just showed, Thane, is you showed that initial process, which is all about speed and efficiency, but the whole process was controlled using the system with legal terms and conditions, pre-approved contract terms. That so you can see how that's going to drive sales efficiency. You also saw that there was a document repository, like all the contracts and their statuses, both the document and the metadata was all available to the sales user right in Salesforce, not having to leave their system of engagement. And yet legal was still working in Office, which is where they tend to do a lot of their work. And then, finally, again, like just a reminder, it's sort of like we take it for granted if we're already using the Salesforce platform, but all of what you used to build that demo was using Salesforce platform capabilities. So this is not a separate skill set of a different admin system. And so I think for that reason, we really believe that there's an accelerated time to implement this because you're using a familiar platform. So, but I haven't seen it illustrated as effectively as what you've just applied, Thane. So I really appreciate that great run through.
Yeah, I'd also just like to double down on what you just mentioned, Greg, here. Can you see my?
Yeah, we can see it.
A lot, the combination of what we just showed in Salesforce contracts and anything that we build and demo, is very purposeful. So Thane has built a contracts accelerator that takes a lot of the workflow and the launching of documents functionality and built an actual accelerator that customers can leverage. We've done it because oftentimes in the past, these CLM projects, when utilizing a different technology, you're always starting from ground zero. There is no way to get speed to value. So if we're able to take, a workflow mechanism that we've built and be able to, start on second base and be able to adjust and make tweaks based upon a company's individual process, as opposed to building from ground one, you get best in class functionality from, years of experience, but you're also getting, reduced timeline and budget, which clients obviously want to, understand how quick can we get this done? And is this what type of lift we're engaging in? So, more to come on that. Series 2 of our contract webinar is going to be next month. We're going to focus more on the legal side. We're going to integrate a lot of AI, and we're going to really leverage visualization from a dashboard and reporting mechanism. Obviously, a lot to share in 1 hour, but wanted to get the nuts and bolts of what the product can do out in front of everybody. Obviously, we have Salesforce people on the line as well as customers. And oftentimes you don't know exactly who your representative is here at Neocol. Reach out to your Salesforce AE, reach out to me at tomnoss@neocol.com. I could point you in the right direction. I appreciate everybody joining us today. Greg, thanks again. Bringing your 2 decades of experience at Neocol is always invaluable, and love jiving with you on solutions and things of that nature. Thane, love what you're doing here. Appreciate you as always. Thanks everybody for showing up. And if you have any questions, feel free to respond to the calendar invite I'll also be sending a recap out. Feel free to respond to that as well. But thanks everybody for coming, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.